Greetings, everyone, and welcome. February the 15th, 2026. We can 100% say now, without hesitation, that the mask is completely off for Viktor Orbán. Just days after calling Ukraine an enemy of Hungary, he has now doubled down by calling Brussels and the EU an enemy of Hungary. But at the same time, he's calling Vladimir Putin a friend who should not be feared, and we can't keep going on this Putin hunt. This isn't just rhetoric either, guys. It's a coordinated circle of events that are unfolding to build bridges to Moscow right now. Remember, it was just a couple of days ago that President Donald Trump gave Orbán his complete and total endorsement for the 2026 election, calling him a true winner, one of the greatest leaders on the planet. So while they are building bridges to Moscow, the entire world is waking up even more and beginning to realize that the betrayal we hoped was not real is not only real, but growing day by day. You're going to hear even from places like Japan and Sikorski in Poland in this update. It's crazy, folks. Here we go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing. It's one of my favorite thumbnails we've made here. The mask is off, and here we go. We'll start with Orbán. Putin is not to be feared, but our actual enemy is not in Moscow, but it is in Brussels. Here you go. Those who love freedom should not fear the East. But Brussels and the cast of people there, that's where the worry should be. Putin bashing is primitive and not serious, but Brussels is a tangible reality and a direct threat. We wouldn't have fought this 20 years ago, but it's the bitter truth now, and we will not tolerate it. It doesn't get any plainer than that. Putin bashing is just a game. There's no enemy over there with Putin. The enemy is in Brussels and the enemy is in Ukraine. And once again, I remind you that circle is there of Trump and Orban and Putin. And to ignore it is not the right decision. Recognize it for what it is, move these guys off the scene, and let's stand with Ukraine and win this war. Now, I told you yesterday, I believe, that there definitely would be a response to Zelensky's statements about, yeah, we'll make a compromise. Putin can go to prison or not have a long life. I told you that Russia would be responding, and they are responding. It's very interesting. I'm going to show it to you right now. Actually, it's Dmitry Medvedev. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when, but here is the response from Security Council Director of Russia back to Zelenskyy on statements he made the last couple of days. Not only is he having this position, but he's also former prime minister, former president, and he really is one of the face and vocal pieces on the social media platforms for Putin, because Putin doesn't operate on social media, but Medvedev does. That louse with glazed eyes said that Ukraine's biggest compromise is that Putin and his friends are not in prison. Well, then our answer is simple. The green non-entity of a human will live only as long as it keeps destroying his country. I don't know why Medvedev is filming in black and white unless Russia ran out of color film. Or maybe it's light situation. It may be a light situation because now, if you want some good news, we even have the governor of Belgorod dropping a message just a few moments ago. That's all, folks. That's a wrap on the heating season. We are done in the Belgorod region. Ukraine has wiped out our entire infrastructure. Listen for yourself on this one. After completing a detailed analysis by our heating engineers, because of the recent damages to our energy systems and facilities, we now have the understanding that homes in Belgorod that are connected to the centralized heating will not receive hot water until the end of the heating season is completed. It's about time they're feeling it, and now they're done all the way until spring. I wonder what Zelensky's response is on that. Oh, there it is. Oh. Yeah, that's Zelensky's response. Now, let's get to Sikorski, because he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. Polish foreign minister, and Poland is really getting much more involved, even in nuclear talk, militarization talk, mobilization talk. A lot of changes are happening in Poland right now. He said the outcome of the war will not be decided by negotiations. That goes against what Rubio said over the weekend. But it will be settled by the question of who breaks first. According to him, Russia's resources are the key factor, and the real question is when Putin will run out of resources to wage war. Cracks in the Russian economy are beginning to appear. I completely agree with that 100%. Putin is all in. He's not just going to stop fighting war. There will be no ceasefire. This is his legacy, and until there is nothing else to put in the air, he will continue fighting. And there's something beautiful here. Sikorski also tweeted out bottom right. He said, and this is a direct statement to the U.S., "Let me be clear. Europe is now paying for this war." And I showed you the chart the other day, basically 100%. We are buying American weapons to deliver to Ukraine. U.S. supplemental package ran out last year, 2025. We are paying. This is our security, and therefore we deserve a seat at the negotiating table. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Let's see what unfolds from that in the coming days, because we know that scheduled meetings are to take place in Switzerland in the middle of this week. We shall see. Now, Zelenskyy dropping truth about the election. So much pressure he spoke about this weekend, how much pressure is on him. And one of the things that he's in a pressure cooker about is having elections. But it's not that simple. It's not easy. You just do not go open a polling station in Kyiv. Here's Zelenskyy talking about it.
But you know that it's interesting that you know that 90% against elections now, 90% of Ukraine. If it's interesting for somebody what Ukrainians think, though 90% are against because they understand that it's terrible how to do it now, how to do elections during the war, under attacks. It's terrible how our soldiers will vote, and they are defended. They have to vote. We have to hear them. It's terrible how 8 million people which are abroad will vote, but they have to choose the president, and the parliament, and local elections, a lot of different elections. So I agree if we can make elections, it means that we will have normal security situation. Maybe not normal, but as I said, ceasefire. So if President Trump, and I think that he can, if President Trump will give me pushing Putin ceasefire for 2-3 months, we will do elections.
There you have it. Great playback on Trump, with pressure now back on Trump. Give me 2-3 months. Okay, we'll figure out a way to have an election, but you've got to get Putin to ceasefire. Now, here's what's interesting for me, and I smiled during that video, even though I voiced it over and subtitled it. It didn't dawn on me until I was actually listening during this video prep for you guys. He's speaking about election security and elections and 8 million people abroad. My goodness, President Zelenskyy, let me give you some advice. I'm not sure America is the place to look towards, because right now the Trump administration is filing lawsuits in Georgia about elections, and all Americans do is fight about the ballot boxes. So I'm not really sure where the best ones to be giving recommendations on that. And I think that goes back to Sikorski. And Sikorsky saying, listen, we're paying for everything. We need a voice in these negotiations. There may be a lot of things changing this week. Now, as we start this week, we know that North Korea has been very actively involved. They've now built all these monuments, memorials, testing new weapons, all of this stuff. Do you know where Rocket Man, Rocket Boy has fired most of his missiles when he's test firing them? Of course, across Japan or into the Sea of Japan. Well, now the Japanese defense minister, Shinjiro Koizumi, is becoming quite alarmed. This is a new voice on the stage supporting Ukraine, and that's a good thing. He says, more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to Russia, and Russia is sending North Korean troops to Ukraine, and then they come back to North Korea. Okay, why? They want to have war with Japan, or maybe it's South Korea, but we're paying attention. Listen to this.
North Korean soldiers have been sent. More than 10,000 soldiers have been sent to Russia. Russia have sent, North Korean soldiers to Ukraine. Then they are learning new way of fighting with drones, AI, and cyberspace, and with all domains, with conventional weapons. Then getting back to North Korea, then we need to think about what they are using for and who they are using against. So that's why I said Ukraine is not a distant problem.
Ukraine is not a distant problem. And Japan's on the other side of the world. It's not a distant problem. It's on our doorstep, because the one who has been firing rockets in our direction has been training troops in that war. AI, drone technology, new warfare. You see, guys, I remind you that this is no longer a conventional warfare. This is technology war. Yes, there's still weapons. Yes, there's still conventional, but no, this is a technology war. And you've seen that by the recent Starlink and how Russia now adapting with American ubiquity systems to communicate on the front lines. But Ukraine has been able to have a good counteroffensive because Starlink communication was removed and Telegram has slowed down. It's such a mess we're in right now. Japan recognizing it, while Orban is saying Putin's the friend and Trump's endorsing Orban. Now, the last thing we need to watch this week, there's supposed to be another round of negotiations on the same day. Witkoff is so brilliant, he can talk about Iran and then flip switches and talk about Ukraine. Well, I guess he can. It's probably going to be with like Charlie Brown cartoons and crowns and coloring books. That's probably going to be the level of negotiations coming from the U.S. side, because Medinsky's coming from Russia, and he's just going to talk about the history of Russia. So we already know everything that's going to happen. But Netanyahu, big today, talking after his trip to the United States. He says, listen, you guys know as well as I know, there's getting ready to be activity in Iran. And Netanyahu reminding, listen, this is what's required. If you're going to avoid war, this is required. All enriched uranium must be removed from Iran's borders. Removal of all uranium enrichment equipment from Iran so that enrichment capability is eliminated. Iran's ballistic missiles must be limited to 300 kilometers, and dismantling the terror axis, the support of proxy regimes. Well, good luck on that one. But we can see this is what we're looking at for the week ahead. It's getting off to a crazy start already. But thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. What a day. Even though at the security conference, America failed, Rubio failed, period. Europeans, you did a good job. Zelenskyy, A++. But then other world leaders, like the Japanese foreign minister, coming out and saying, Ukraine's war is our war. Good. We need to hear that. And we need to hear more of that, because Orban and Trump, they want to be buddies with Putin. We can't allow that to happen. Thank you for all you do, guys. Be blessed.